Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Minisode number 60. On the More Than Fitness podcast, I'm your host, Matt McLeod, and I've got an amazing episode for you guys on the agenda today. Today, we're talking about how to handle peer pressure while dieting. And the tips that I'm about to go over are going to apply to many other things besides just dieting. And also, it doesn't even, in terms of the fitness space, dieting could mean, sure, losing body fat, a weight loss journey, but it could also be weight gain, because a lot of people, which I'll get into, people seem to give their opinions on just about anything that is different than what they are doing. And I think that weight loss and weight gain are both topics that just people always feel the need to give an input. And I think, just real quick as a little aside, I think most people feel comfortable, or at least feel like they have permission to give their opinion and judgment on things like nutrition, because everybody eats. So they feel like they have this foul experience with food, right? Like, and having a reputable opinion on what food you should eat, how you should treat your diet and nutrition, and how you treat your body. And it's just, it's completely, it's asinine, to be 100% honest, but we'll get into that with this minisode. I just think that a lot of people that listen to this, myself included, have probably gone through some peer pressure issues while trying to achieve a goal that they have deemed important to themselves. So that being said, the first tip I want to give is a quote, actually, and it's by Viktor Frankl, who was an amazing author about his, when writing about his experience in Auschwitz, talking is hard, the concentration camps in Germany. He lived through them, he wrote about them, but one of his quotes, and that I want you to remember whenever you're dealing with peer pressure, is he says, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." So what I think he's saying here, and relying, he's obviously not talking about diet and exercise. However, I think it's applicable in this instance, because whenever you have somebody who makes a comment about what you're eating, or say if you typically get a burger at your favorite plate, at your favorite restaurant with your friends or something, they make fun of you for getting a salad this time instead. As soon as they provide that stimulus of insulting you, basically, or poking fun at you, there's going to be a response in between that stimulus of them saying that, and then the response that you give back to them. So I think that in that response, over time, if you can pause for even just a brief moment to collect yourself and understand that that comment has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them, which I'll get to in just a second. But in that response, how you respond to that person is going to be, that's exactly where your growth and freedom lies, to not be affected by comments like that. Because you can have the option one, where you just retaliate, you get angry, and you make some snarky comment back to them, which is understandable if you're still trying to figure out how to navigate this type of quote and navigate your response and being mindful about how you respond. Or you could have the response of making a joke about yourself and then just moving on. It's typically, what's always interesting, growing up with an older brother, right? I had an older brother 3 years older than me, and I always wanted to hang out with his friends. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna tell you guys a quick story about how I got the nickname Wiener whenever I was growing up. This is an interesting turn. I'll make it quick though. Whenever I was younger, probably, I think I was maybe still in elementary school, and my brother, again, he's 3 years older than me, and I was with his friends at the bowling alley. And you know how in the bowling alley you can change people's names up on the screen? Well, they decided to change my name to Wiener up on the screen. And of course, me being the younger kid looking for so much acceptance from these older kids that I look up to and things, and then them calling me wiener, I think I took offense to it. I got really upset. And whenever I got really upset at the bullying, I actually got so mad and flustered, I ended up spilling a drink on myself. And then I just got embarrassed, and then it really stuck. They saw how upset and as an older brother, older friends, like they just pick on the younger kids. And whenever you pick on somebody who's younger, or you pick on anybody, and you see that picking on them is eliciting this hardcore response, well, I was giving them exactly what they wanted. Like they knew that they got to me then. Whenever I got all flustered, they got angry, and then so of course that nickname of wiener stuck with me throughout my entire high school period. And some of them today, even whenever I see them, they still call me wiener. I came later to accept it whenever I got older and understood what was actually going on. But it was that's the scenario that whenever you show how angry that makes you, what they're saying, like then they did exactly what they wanted to. And so, yeah, I feel like that's in that response, it was not a lot of growth and freedom for younger Matthew. But yeah, it's so funny how that can relate back to this experience. But yeah, so my nickname in high school was Wiener. My football coaches called me Wiener. Well, some of them called me Wiener, and it became a fun joke. So yeah, if you ever have trivia later on about my life in the future, for whatever reason, my nickname was Wiener in high school. Anyway, number 2. The next tip that I have is to have the courage to be disliked. This comes from a book that I've been reading called The Courage to be Disliked. It's an amazing book. I can link it in the show notes. But one of the points that they talked about in this that I thought really would be helpful to a lot of people if they understood this is that, and building off the point from number 1, is that you committed to this fitness goal that you have, right? To diet, to lose weight, to be a healthier person, right? This is important to you. How people respond to your goals, how that person responds to you getting a meal that's healthier than what you normally get, getting a salad instead of that cheeseburger, you have to remember that it's not your task to make that person feel comfortable with your choices. That's on them. You have no control over how they think or how they respond or how they judge you based off their own insecurities in their own life, right? It's just, you're not going to be able to please every single person that you come in contact with how you live your life. That's a life of slavery, and that's a life without freedom. And I don't want any type of life like that. If I have to choose between a life of appeasing everyone else and not being the type of person that I want to be, or I could be disliked by a few people who probably, who definitely have their own issues and I possibly don't even want to be around them in the first place. It's like I'm 100% always going to choose to be disliked by a couple people to make sure that I can live a life based on my own terms and values and what I deem is important to myself, instead of living to fit other people's molds of what they think I should or should not do. So having the courage to be disliked is just so important whenever you're dieting or whenever you're doing, again, like I said, this goes back to anything that just you seem is important to you that may be unconventional from how you've lived in the past. Because again, they're like, oh, maybe they make comments like, oh, you're on some health kick again. Maybe you've done it in the past and you failed, and then you're starting it up again. It's like, it's just hearing that is so difficult, especially if it's someplace that's a hard, vulnerable, insecure place for you to have that courage. But I'm telling you right now, if you can stick up to that person either, and I'm not saying like, again, not making the snarky comment back at them, but then just kind of giving in to what they're saying, like, oh, making a joke about yourself, because then whenever you make the joke about yourself or just kind of like, oh, brush it off, like then you take the power away from them. And this is the point that I should have made in the very beginning about them calling me wiener. But it's like, if I would have just laughed along with it, they wouldn't have all the power over me, right? And that's what I'm trying to get across here is like, if you have the courage to be disliked, to stand up to that person and just kind of brush off whatever they say. I refer to it as wearing some type of rain jacket, and whenever the rain hits you, the rain just falls right off of you. That's exactly how I want you to treat other people's opinions and judgments on you whenever you're doing something that is absolutely important to you. And I promise you that right there, having that courage to make that stand right there, that's going to give you more confidence in the future than any bullshit affirmation ever will give you, right? That influencer on Instagram telling you to tell you that you love yourself. It's like, you won't believe that until you make hard actions and hard decisions, like having the courage to be disliked. So I want that point to be very, very clear. Okay. Number 3. This is one that it can refer to family or friends for sure. But number 3 is that you just have to understand that you have to recognize it's often just genuine ignorance, and that maybe you have to cut that other person some slack. Sometimes they actually do just worry and care about you, and they genuinely don't know what's healthy or not healthy. They see you getting leaner, and just because they've always seen you maybe as this more overweight, quote unquote, like chubbier kid, and then all of a sudden you start losing weight, well, then you have your mom or your grandma or your grandpa or dad or whatever making comments like, oh, you're looking, whenever I did my bodybuilding competition and lost a lot of weight, they're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Like, are you sick? Are you feeling sick? Whenever you start losing weight, they start to worry about you. And again, this is sure, they probably shouldn't make those comments in the first place, but the intentions are pure and genuine, and maybe you just need to cut that person some slack and understand where they're coming from, and just, again, do your best to not let it get to you. Okay, that's number 3. And the number 4, the last one is, this one's a little bit of a curveball, but basically just turn it into a game. Whenever someone says something to you about the choices that you're making, literally make something up. And this, some people will be okay with this, some people won't. But you could literally say, they would be like, oh, you're getting that salad. I'm going to eat this cheeseburger because I love myself. You could come back with, I would love to have a cheeseburger, but actually I've been having some really hardcore digestive issues in the past month or so. And actually salads are all I've been able to eat. I've been on this low acidic diet. I'm not able to eat this, and this. It's been really terrible. And I've been really miserable because of it. It's like, then you can throw that little backhanded remark right back in their face, because then they're actually going to feel bad. And it's like, should you feel bad for lying about that little bit of a white lie? It's like, I don't think so, because that person deserved it, because they're fucking being shitty for saying something and intervening on your choices in the first place. So it's like, I'm completely okay with you making up a little white lie that just kind of shows that person, hey, watch your fucking mouth next time. You could say, oh, I've been having diarrhea lately. Whenever I eat that, so I can't eat it anymore. Then it's like, what are they going to say back? Like, what could they possibly say if it's some type of medical issue? What are they going to say? You could also say, I've got a bet with my sister on who can go the longest without eating sweets. Winner gets $100. That's logical. Well, what's the person going to do? What are they going to say back to that? Oh, no, you're not. Of course. Like, you can just say, oh yeah, I've got this bet. Winner gets $100. There you go. Oh, cool. That's great. Maybe the person who's talking shit should do the same thing. Or you could say, I'm having a colonoscopy tomorrow, so I can't eat that right now. Again, what are they going to say? No? Are they going to say you're not having a colonoscopy? So yeah, literally the point number 4 is to turn it into a game. I don't see anything wrong with that. And I hope that you guys can have some fun with that. And if you ever do one of those and it works, please send me a DM or a message. I'd love to hear about it. All right. And that is it, my friends, for Minisode number 60 on how to handle peer pressure while dieting. Thank you, as always, for listening and for watching. See ya.